Welcome to my remake of my previous channel. I created this video a few years back for a channel that I no longer have access to. It had over a couple thousand subscribers, and I regretfully took a break from uploading videos and didn't get the notification from YouTube to dispute a copyright infringement claim within the 3 days allowed, where I should have been able to explain that I was uploading under the Fair Use Act for research purposes.
I expect that by now my readers have at least begun to examine their beliefs.
Welcome back to the investigation, guys, and I'd like to start this video by welcoming you new subscribers. And there are just a few of you who know that this channel is a continuation of the Prophecies of the Ancients and the Americas Explained, a book I titled The Sacrificial Lives 2020. And it's very personal details of my life that led me to the work of the Normans in 2001, and then the Raw Contact in around 2011. And what I've been finding about these different books that I was led to in very profound ways is that there were always prophecies involved. But not only that, these were prophecies that had to do with details of some odd experiences much earlier in my life that sort of gave me an awareness of the deeper meanings within these prophecies. And when I found each of these prophecies on the date that they were prophesied, I realized that there was a book that I should be writing about these experiences. And so as I finished up writing the book by January of 2020 and published, I then got around to reading my first book by Dolores Cannon, and then eventually the Seth material was suggested to me. And so as I listened to Keepers of the Garden for the first time in January 2020, and then around 11 books by Dolores Cannon ever since, I realized that these experiences of her subject were deeply connected to my own, as well as what I had found in 2001 in the books by the Normans, and then the Raw Contact. And so as I've been listening to and reading the many different works of Jane Roberts and Dolores Cannon, I've realized that the experiences of my life have been very much psychically influenced, or in tune, if I can say it in that way. And I'm going to give you the most recent example of what I mean with the Uluru prophecy of the Australian elders that was supposed to be coming to a conclusion in this year, 2020, December 21st. So I hadn't known about this prophecy, but people on Facebook made me aware of it. And so I learned about this magic box prophecy, a symbology of what was inside this box that was going to be opened and serve its purpose, which is information. That's what was in the box, and that's what people are going to slowly start realizing too. And so throughout the week and over the weekend, I was preparing the last of the Keepers of the Garden chapter that I had realized was connected to a Little Red Box story from Ernest Norman. This last chapter called The Mysterious Black Box. And so in this Keepers of the Garden book, there was a little black box that her subject Phil kept being shown on. And finally, in dreams and other experiences, Phil had the contents of the little black box shown to him, and the meaning of it all was explained. And it wasn't very hard for me to make the connection with this Uluru magic box prophecy. But after I made this video, which I'm going to link here and I want everyone to check out who's interested, the very next day I'm reading this book, the Seth material, for the first time. And I was pretty blown away by what I began reading, because check out this excerpt. And this family, these two brothers, were from Australia, and according to this book, they had heard about Jane Roberts and her experiences with Seth, and wanted to know some things. And so in one of the following sessions, Seth and Jane had a pretty peculiar experience, and then Rob, who did the recording, wrote back to the brothers describing what Jane had seen in the out-of-body experience and what Seth explained while she was having this experience during a session following receiving their letter. While Jane was seeing the San Diego Bay in a pink house that the brothers lived in, Seth was explaining, while Rob, as always, was doing the recording. But first, here is a map showing where I was reading from, a place I've either lived or worked or both for the last 5 years or so. Chula Vista, California. I've been working at a casino called 7 Mile Casino right there on the bay. Rob sent a copy of the session to the two brothers. They sent back a tape in which they evaluated the information. Later they signed a statement, which is in our files. Seth's information about their house was right in every particular, including the data on the area and the shape of the sea coast there. The brothers lived in Chula Vista, a place I'd never visited. They lived in a pink stucco house with 2 bedrooms to the rear. The corner was 2 houses to the right. The house itself was half a mile from San Diego Bay. Numerous sand dunes were nearby and wooden posts, exactly as described, were scattered along the dunes. The family had come from Australia and hoped to return. Several other impressions not mentioned here were also right, others wrong. For example, Seth said that the mother was dead. Actually, she was quite alive, though the family had cut her off emotionally, and she did not always live at home. Now, I'd like to say that not every interpretation or impression is always correct by us, and we're all human, and we all make mistakes, right? Well, I found it important to keep this in mind while we consider what people were shown in trance and interpreted and delivered because of the impressions that they were given. And this is especially true with Ruth Norman, Ernest Norman's widow, after 1971, who formed a very bizarre UFO cult around herself. The most profound thing about all of this, though, is that the experiences of my life were proving Seth to be correct in every way. When it came to us creating our physical experiences throughout lifetimes, through our beliefs, what we've believed about ourselves and the nature of reality has determined what we've been able to or have not been able to experience in these lifetimes in order to further our education on the nature of reality. But not only was Seth claiming these things, and were my life experiences demonstrating and showing me that he's absolutely correct, he was also explaining a prophecy of the year 2075 that more and more people would become aware of this reincarnational drama, or as he explained, religious drama of Ernest Norman's experiences. Seth explains in Seth Speaks precisely what Ernest Norman was experiencing throughout his life and gave a complete description of Ernest Norman's life. And Pulse of Creation series that he wrote has also only been further validated by the work of Seth and Jane Roberts. And as you all would see too, Dolores Cannon channels also played a big part in this. But it's really fascinating to me to keep experiencing these things that validate all of these claims from Seth and the Normans and the Cannon channels continually through my physical experiences. And even in the book I wrote, the fiction part, in the beginning I wrote a creative story that was to be the previous lifetimes of myself and some of my best friends that led us into the experiences we've had in this lifetime. And the details in these, I even mentioned a coffin that I end up climbing into in one of the visions or dreams in this magic box is described as a casket shape or coffin shape in both the Normans as well as Dolores Cannon's description of their mysterious boxes. So many other details of my own life, the real experiences of my life, also tie into Dolores Cannon's real life experiences and Ernest Norman's, so much so that some would really think that I had read all of these books already and then concocted a creative story that's all fabricated. But the fact is that I had never read any Dolores Cannon books or listened to any, and I hadn't even heard of Jane Roberts or Seth when I wrote in my book that my grandfather, Robert Williams, had met my mother's father-in-law in upstate New York, where she remarried and moved to just before he passed away. He met the man with an exact reflection of his name, William Roberts. And now, before you know every detail of my story and the significance of this reflection, and now Jane Roberts and her husband Robert, who lived in upstate New York and gave us the Seth material that explains that we create our physical reality, that we create our experiences according to what we become ready for. And as he explains, we do this all effortlessly through the inner self, or what Norman called the psychic self.
Either way, the ideas of reality are reinforced both consciously and unconsciously, not only within the family, but among all those with whom the family comes in contact. You get what you concentrate upon. There is no other main rule. It may be easy for you to see beliefs that are invisible to others in themselves. Reading this book, you may be able to point at friends or acquaintances and see clearly that their ideas are invisible beliefs which limit their experience, and yet be blind to your own invisible beliefs, which you take so readily as truth or characteristics of reality. Your sense data, again, will most definitely reinforce your ideas. You will also react clairvoyantly and telepathically to inner information at an unconscious level that is, once more, collected under the organization of your quite conscious concepts concerning existence in general and your own in particular. So you are locked into physical situations that are corroborated by the great evidence of sense data, and of course it is convincing because it reflects so beautifully, so creatively, and so actively your own ideas and beliefs, whether they are positive or negative. In greater terms, positive and negative have little meaning, for the physical experience is meant as a learning one. But if you are unhappy, then the word negative has a meaning.
Pause, one of few, at 9:50.
I expect that by now my readers have at least begun to examine their beliefs, and perhaps thought and feeling then seem separate. Creativity and intellect do not show themselves as the brothers that they are, but often as strangers. The conscious mind loses its fine edge. It cuts out from its experience the vast body of inner knowledge available to it. Divisions, illusionary ones, appear in the self. Left alone, the self acts spontaneously as a unit, but as an ever-changing one. Listening to voices, both within and without, the conscious mind is able to form beliefs that are in league with the self's knowledge as received from material and non-material sources. Then examination of beliefs takes its place along with other activities, naturally, easily, without effort. Once the conscious mind has accepted a collection of conflicting beliefs, however, a definite attempt is necessary to sort these out. Remember, even false beliefs will seem to be justified in terms of physical data, since your experience in the outside world is the materialization of those beliefs. So you must work with the raw material of your ideas, even while your sense data may tell you that a given belief is obviously a truth. To change your experience, or any portion of it, then, you must change your ideas. Since you have been forming your own reality all along, the results will follow naturally. You must be convinced that you can alter your beliefs. You must be willing to try. Think of a limiting idea as a muddy color, and your life as a multi-dimensional painting that is marred. You change the idea as an artist would his palette. The artist does not identify with the color he uses. He knows he chooses them and applies them with a brush. So you paint your reality with your ideas in the same manner. You are not your ideas, nor even your thoughts. You are the self who experiences them.